Good, because I would imagine they're gonna talk about aquarium. Okay. Oh, so you need to fight.
Well, don't really need it.
We need to fight for.
Yeah, I'm not a voting member, but if you're not by then, they're.
Okay,
And Bill's first.
you need me to fight for lots of grants, but I never really,
Hi, Christine. This is Megan. I just wanted to make sure you didn't have any questions about the email I had sent yesterday.
Christine, you're muted.
She may, yeah, she may have stepped out. Yeah, don't worry.
Morning, Vicky.
Good morning, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Okay, I think.
Mhm.
Was it amendments?
You want some?
Thank you.
My name is not Paul Grimmer.
I was gonna
Sorry.
say, Sheila, I don't think you're
I
Paul,
can't-
but thank you.
I can't change it. Have to wait for IT, I guess. I don't know.
Are you, and you're here for Mayor Cassetti still?
Yes. Not confusing at all, right?
Not at all, thanks, so appreciate
Okay.
you being here.
Okay.
Steve, if you're there, DeMichael, do we expect Doug to join?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you. That's a nice picture.
Yeah, thank you.
And Christine, do you have Bill with you or is he joining separately? You're muted.
Sorry, he's in a meeting right now and he's going to join as soon as that wraps up.
Okay, thank you. Mayor DiMartino, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Still waiting on a few more for a quorum, so we'll give a few minutes. Just for everyone's awareness, we are streaming to YouTube now, just so everyone knows. Even though we're not yet recording. Just please.
No, if you work anywhere else. Oh, I thought you're the first no, because this is not normal. Most people actually have.
Morning, Dave.
I stay criticism.
What are we doing? This is a meeting.
Yeah, meeting and our.
It's always people's amazing.
Yeah, I don't know, replacement person, you usually have like a, like a kid, like he has like a goat, so like, they're,
Yeah.
it's like, you don't go to station.
We have a quorum.
We only, we only have two.
Let me
people.
text Anne Marie.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you don't mind, Sheila, I can try to
Nope.
send her a quick email too.
Christine, are you a proxy until Bill joins?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Are you a proxy until Bill joins?
Um, as far as voting,
I think she has a permanent one, but we can hold. more than
Yes.
that, yeah.
I wasn't planning to be.
We still expect more from MetroCog, so we should still have a quorum. You don't need to be.
Okay.
As Rick sent you, I apparently now have the proxy for Ansonia, Derby, and Seymour. So whichever one makes the most sense for us.
We need Seymour,
Seymour,
but Rick is yeah.
great.
So if we need, Sheila's texting him right now, so if we don't get her, we will, we'll just go with you as, our proxy.
Fantastic.
Thank you, sir.
You send that to me later.
Yeah.
No, need a witness, like, I'm the older people.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'll do that later.
This is,
I've been through trial last night, so I'm going all paper today.
this is, Will, he's in.
Hi, great to meet you.
Good to meet you.
I'm Rich Donovan with Handicap.
Doing his senior experience thing with us.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Oh, there's Terry. Sheila, have you heard from Anne Marie?
She did not respond, and I'm going to text Kurt to see if he'll be her proxy. So stand by.
So you got a meeting going on?
Good morning.
Like every time I come here, it's nasty.
Yeah, it is.
Thanks for bringing the
You'll
wine.
get the nice view.
I think I've been here once when it's been sunny, and every other time it's cloudy and rain. Can come.
No, he's on vacation. You're.
There's the one valley.
Yeah,
start yet or make it?
we didn't start yet. No. We're waiting for a quorum on the Valley South.
I can't do Zoom anymore in my office. I get interrupted way too much. It's a mess.
Seriously?
I try. It's.
We're stopping.
Because it's small, and everybody's used to coming to me for everything. I have an open door policy, so it's like, when I try to do a meeting, they're not getting on, they try to take care of it, and it doesn't work.
I thought you meant the other interrupted.
No, not that, not that kind of, the other kind of interrupted,
Meaning,
Zoom bomb.
that's you guys too, so that's just not me.
Change our whole procedures.
We did too, we went to Lebanon.
That's it.
Because I populated during the senior tax abatement.
Yeah.
So I have the seniors in. They're like, oh.
No.
We got the guy out.
Yeah.
We found stuff at Amsterdam, then to like Germany,
Oh, there's Emery.
and then we tracked it down to Idaho, called the house. Father answered. He says, I know nothing about this, but my 12-year-old son, the 12-year-old son was involved in an organization that set random municipal meetings.
And to his point, oh, you want to have something there?
Morning, Emery. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, we are all set. We do have a quorum. Mayor Hoydick, as the chairperson, is
Right.
not here. Do you mind starting us off, Laura?
Not at all. I did not know the chairman was not going to be here. Okay, welcome everybody, and I'll call the meeting to order. This meeting is being conducted, morning Doug. The meeting is being conducted both in person and virtually. And if all would rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, appreciate it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first item on the agenda, which I'm having difficulty pulling up, is can we share that?
participation.
Agenda? Pardon me?
Public participation.
Thank you. Is there any public participation? Anyone who wishes to participate in this meeting via the public option? Hearing none, we'll move on to the second item on the agenda.
Is the approval of the minutes from March 27th, 2025.
I'm just pulling these up so I don't have to rely on you, though. I appreciate it, Matt.
No problem,
May I
Laura.
have a motion? May I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
Motion. Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, Sheila.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
Second.
I can't hear who the second is.
Bill.
Bill
Thank you,
Gerber.
Bill. Thank you,
Aye.
Bill, for the second. Any discussion on the meeting minutes from March 27th, 2025? Hearing none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. Thank you. First action item, fiscal year 25-28 TIP STIP, Federal Highways Projects, Resolution 2025, and it's been the attachment B. Should we start? Matt, do you want to start with the Service Plaza?
Yeah, well, we take a motion first to take item 1, and then we'll have discussion.
Okay, may I have a motion to take item 1 about the Service Plaza
So
TIP STIP
moved.
changes?
That was a motion by First Selectman Rooney.
Thank you, Terry. Is there a second? First Selectman Gerber. Discussion. Matt, would you like to proceed with this project?
Yes, so this is, there's 2 projects in the, in this first item, one on the first page, the project 0170-3640. That is the, purpose of this project is to provide sign and sign support replacements at service plazas along Interstate 95 and Interstate 395. Project was originally approved by this body as part of the original 2025-2028 TIP in May of 2024. At the March 27th, 2025 meeting, program funds were approved for an increase of about 79%. Since March, the scope of the project has been refined to include fewer regions those not in the 95 and 395 corridors. The inclusion of GBVMPO region continues to be in the project scope, so it's really just a modification of what was approved in March of this year. The second project is project 0170-3780. This is traffic safety analytics. The purpose of this project is to fund the Connecticut Road Safety Management System, CRSMS at UConn. This is a custom-based web tool for data-driven safety analytics. The project will ensure that CRSMS is maintained, updated, and upgraded to meet end user needs and comply with the latest technologies and safety analysis guidelines and requirements, including new elements, updated methodologies, and new criteria. Continuing to advance this will provide Connecticut DOT necessary services and support to enhance capabilities of data-driven safety analytics to transportation planning decisions. This project replaces a previous DOT project, 0170-3565, due to an updated agreement with UConn to maintain this through July of 2030. So it's really UConn supporting Connecticut DOT and the MPOs on data analytics, large data sets for safety analysis purposes.
Thank you, Matt. Is there any questions or further discussion? Hearing none, since the item is on, the action items are separated, why don't we take a vote on this one? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Opposed? Abstentions? Item passes, motion passes. Okay. On to the next. Traffic safety analytics. I will entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Thank you, David. Is there a second? Thank you, Bill. Matt, why don't you give us a description of this project?
Yeah, that was the one I just referred to. So that's the UConn project, the funding for UConn to support the large data analytics for safety purposes. It is data sets that both Connecticut DOT and the MPOs use regularly to assess safety issues and concerns within the state and within each MPO region.
Okay, now that I'm actually can see this.
Yeah, we did do both of them through the first motion, Laura, because it's on the second page. I know it's we had one item on one page and the second item on the back side. And we can do a motion to approve this one if we want to, but I think the first one.
Is there a separation in federal highways of the two? Do we need to
No,
have
these are both
two
federal
motions?
highway. No, these are both federal highways. We typically take the FHWA ones in the group and then take the FTA ones separately as a separate item.
I'm sorry,
it's up to you.
my apologies. My apologies, everybody.
problem.
I'm reading this off my phone.
I have room for a little discussion because I just want to talk about that really quickly.
Sure, through the chair. Laura, First Selectman Rooney just had a comment.
Yeah, I just want to mention that this program I just recently used in town. It worked out very well for information purposes. So a lot of municipalities, mayor, selectmen now are dealing with a speeding issue. This is kind of very common. So just recently we had a individual in town complain about speeding, and we had UConn come out and put a box on the road. It documented the amount of cars that went through February 19th and 24 to be 6,054 cars. Somebody was complaining that there were speeders on the road. This UConn study, this program, decided that there was only 3% of the cars that were actually breaking the speed limit. So, we're facing that a lot. And this program actually worked out well for us in Monroe. So I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
That picture?
Yeah, where?
100%.
I'm sorry, is there somebody else who wanted to say something?
No, there's just background noise. Sorry, Laura.
Oh, okay, great. Okay. So my apologies for asking for a second motion, gentlemen. I thank you for being acquiescent to me. I guess we're going to go on to amendment for fiscal year number 2, amendment for fiscal year 25-28 for the TIPS project resolution 25 through 08, which is an attachment C.
Next to.
Yeah.
So that's on.
Bill, I think you have some background noise going on. There you go.
Sorry,
Thank
we just muted him. Sorry.
Nope. So may I have a motion to approve? David,
So
would you
moved.
be so kind? Oh, thank you, Doug.
First
David,
Selectman Rooney
so kind.
made a
Just a
motion.
Second, Sheila.
Thank you, Sheila.
Second Sheila.
So I recognize Doug for the motion, Sheila for the second. Matt, do you want to walk us through this?
Sure, happy to. So this is FTA amendments to the tip stip. The first project is 0410-2025 EQ. This Greater Bridgeport Transit Admin Capital and Miscellaneous Support for fiscal year 25. This project was originally approved as part of the initial 2025-2028 tip in May 2024 for $575,000. This amendment will reduce the funding by $50,000 to $525,000. Next project is project 0410-2025 RS, Greater Bridgeport Transit Repower 2017 bus supplemental funding for fiscal year 25. This project was originally approved at the July 27th, 2023 meeting of GBVMPO for the 2021 to 2024 tip for $3.522 million in fiscal year 2024. The purpose of this project is to repower its 2017 new flyer buses, 35 buses in total, which will keep the buses in revenue service for the remaining 6 years of their useful life. The bid value of this project turned out to be $6.914 million. The amendment will provide the supplemental carryover funding from fiscal year 25 5307 funding for GBT to complete this project in its totality. The next project is 0410-2025 FI. GBT Bridgeport Intermodal Center improvements for fiscal year 25. This will remove the fiscal year 25 funding for GBT's Intermodal Center. GBT has sufficient funding in older grants to support these improvements and rehabilitation activities. Funding will be programmed in future years as necessary. This project was originally approved as the initial 2025-2028 tip in May 2024. And that's all the amendments for this item.
Thank you, Matt. Since it's the Greater Bridgeport Transit show, Doug or Steve, would you like to comment?
Steve?
Sure, yes. Right, so GBT is it's a smaller agency with limited capacity to execute, a certain number of projects at the same time. So we want to be sure that, our requests are commensurate with our ability to plan and fund and complete projects in a timely manner, which is why, we've sought a change in the intermodal center funding, for example. The new flyer project, the repower, is a critical project for us. So buses have a 12-year lifespan. In this case, it's 2/3 of our fleet. And this project is due for a mid-year, what's called a mid-year repower, which is very common in the transit industry. Essentially, you replace the engine, the transmission, the hybrid drive system. In this case, 20 of these vehicles are hybrids and associated equipments. We had initially sought funding and estimated the project at about $3.5 million. After a competitive bid process, the project came in substantially higher than what we initially expected, which is why we're seeking funding to complete the project. It really is critical to our ability to continue continuity of operations as these buses age. So that is the background on that project. Happy to answer any other questions you might have.
Anyone? Great. Well, then let's vote. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to resolution 25 through 225 through 09, the Unified Planning Work Program. Again, we'll need a motion for that. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. First Selectman Rooney. Made
Thank
motion.
you. Thank you, Jerry. Second, David. Discussion, or Matt, would you lead us through this?
Sure, we're happy to. So this is the 2-year UPWP, or Unified Planning Work Program. That is what we draft on behalf of federal highways to ensure our planning activities are commensurate with and meet all the required federal requirements for our transportation planning activities. As in previous years, we've continuously coordinated with NVCOG on the drafting of the UPWP. And this will be the transportation planning funding for MetroCog and for the 4 towns in NVCOG as part of GBVMPO for the next 2 fiscal years.
Thank you, Matt. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, let's vote. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody. And the last action item is Resolution 25-10, the Urban Transportation Planning Certificate 2025. May I have a motion to approve?
It's Vicky
So
Tesoro,
moved.
make that motion.
Thank you, Vicky. Is there a second?
Second.
First Selectman Rooney seconded.
Thank you. Thank you, Terry, for the second. Matt, would you lead us through this?
Yeah, so this is an annual self-certification that we do as part of the adoption of our UPWP, or I guess it's every 2 years. So this is something that we do to just self-certify that we are in compliance and meeting all the requirements of the federal transportation planning process as set out by Federal Highways and US DOT.
Thank you, Matt. Are there any questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, let's vote. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Passes unanimously. Okay, on to other business, the 2730 tip.
Yeah, I'll just quickly update that. So we the MPOs in coordination with Connecticut DOT have been in discussions over the last couple of months about getting on a 2-year transportation improvement program update cycle as opposed to the 3 years that we have been on. Prior to 2012, we were on a 2-year cycle. From 2012 through now, we've been on a 3-year cycle. One of the issues there is when we get toward into the 3rd year of that tip cycle, we end up with a lot of amendments because projects have changed, costs have changed. So part of this moving back to a 2-year cycle is to try and reduce the number of amendments. And the second piece to that is we also, all the MPOs have their metropolitan transportation plans or our long-range plans that are going to be due in 2027. So we are starting this tip process earlier so that we're not trying to both approve a brand new tip and complete our metropolitan transportation plan in the same year. So it's a way to kind of maximize our time and make sure that the tip updates are always off cycle of the transportation planning, the metropolitan transportation plan cycles, to allow for all of us to coordinate a little better on each of those individually.
Thank you, Matt. Does anyone have any concerns, questions, comments? Okay, on to the surplus vans and buses. Who would like to?
Yeah, I will turn this one over to Steve DeMichael. It was a question that was raised by this body a few months ago in terms of what GBT does with their buses that have reached the end of their useful life based on FTA guidelines. So we want to just provide a quick update. Steve, I don't know if you're still there. Yeah, you are.
Yep. Sure. Yes. So, typically our buses are very, very well used by the time they reach the end of their useful life. Many of them are scrapped. In some cases, we are able to donate vehicles to certain entities. Typically, historically, those vehicles haven't been running. They're used by fire departments, for example, for training purposes. Although, occasionally we are able to transfer ownership of some of our vehicles to entities who can make use of them. So, where we stand right now, we've taken on a number of our smaller paratransit vehicles. Our 2025 fleet is coming into service. Right now we have about 12 remaining 2017 vehicles, which are running, but they're very well used. And so the plan is, as we break in our 2025 vehicles, it's always prudent to hang on to the older vehicles for a little while to guard against any sort of fleet defect or issue. So we anticipate being able to transfer some of our 2017 vans later in 2025 to an interested entity, and that it could be a town, it could be a nonprofit. Any proceeds greater than 10,000 are returned to FTA. Typically we work with Condot to seek their approval on the disposition of a vehicle, whether it be donated or sold.
Thank you, Steve. Any other comments or concerns? Hearing none, we'll move to the next meetings. These are our regularly scheduled meetings. Does anybody have a conflict with either of them that they'd like to share now? I know the 31st of July I'll be on vacation. Not that I couldn't participate remotely, but just to assure that we have a quorum. If we could circle back and let everybody know if that's a good meeting date or not, that would be helpful. And then maybe we could have a special meeting, cancel that one and have a special meeting.
Yeah, well, we'll keep an eye on amendments and the like over the next, I'd say, 4 to 5 weeks or so. If there's a need to try to get this body together prior to July, I know July is a tough month for lots of folks. We can certainly do that. Typically, if we don't have any amendments or any amendments that are time sensitive, we sometimes can just push off that meeting or do it earlier as necessary. But we'll make sure we keep an eye on any potential action items and let everyone know whether or not we need to get this body together sooner than that.
Hey, Matt. Okay. Does anybody else have any concerns? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I move.
Thank you, Doug. Second by David. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Just let everyone's out.
We'll send out an update to the map forum agenda
Thank you.
today. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for
I didn't even
coming.
look at it, but I just assumed when they sent it out as the.
They didn't send out the phone.
They did.
I
They
just
sent
sent
2
it
copies of the, yeah. So I saw your message too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rich. Thanks, Rich.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
Hey,
it.
guys. Great to meet you. Good luck.
Did you leave people for coffee out?
Make them.
Do you want some? We can make some.
Well, I'm not gonna eat the food.
No, it's a friendly.
We have an espresso
I love espresso.
or an espresso. It's not.
We'll get you something.
Okay.
No, it's fine. It's
We're good. We got it.
Did we ask them to just introduce themselves?
No, we can be on.
Yeah, but to our public.
We're a bunch of customers out waiting. Coffee's not out. I'm spoiled every time I come here. It's coffee.
Well, we didn't know it was coming. You guys. All right, Vicky, I think we're all set here. So whenever you want to call us to order for the COG meeting, and we're just going to add a legislative update, Vicky. I did not include it previously. I apologize. So maybe after the approval of the minutes, we can do the legislative update with Mike Smith.
Sounds good.
Thank you,
Okay.
Vicky.
I'm going to call the regular of May 29th, 2025 to order. If I could ask everyone just to stand for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the
Flag.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Matt, could you call the roll for us?
I sure can. First Selectman Rooney, Town of Monroe.
Here.
Here. First Selectman Bindleglass, Town of Easton.
Here.
Thank you, Dave. Mayor Hoydick, Town of Stratford.
Here.
Thank you. Did we lose Bill? Is Bill with Christine? Well, Vicky Tesoro, Chair, Town of Trumbull. Thank you. And Bill Gerber is just joining us again. I'll give him 1 second to join. Bill Gerber, First Selectman, Town of Fairfield. He's here. I think he's getting his camera on. But we do have a quorum present and accounted for.
Great.
Madam Chair.
Okay, so we will move to public participation. Is there anybody here who would like to make a comment? Again, anyone here like to make a comment?
Vic, just one clarification, Vicky. We do have someone on the Zoom by the name of Molter. Do you mind identifying yourself? Just so we can have it for the records.
This is John Harkins. Molter is a company I had for government relations, and for some reason it's showing up as Mulder instead of John Harkins. My apologies.
No problem, John. Thank you.
Keep an eye on you, John.
We were worried, we might have to remove you, John, because we didn't know who you were.
Yeah, I am not Zoom bombing.
Okay, good. We had our fingers on the mice ready to get you out of there if we needed to. Okay, thank you, John. Sorry. Let's change his name just so it's
Yes.
reflected in there. Sorry, Vicky. I just want to make sure we knew who that was before we had.
Quite all right. Quite all right. Okay, so now that we have that all clarified, is there anybody here who would like to make a public comment?
Old milk on the top too.
If I could just make one note on public participation,
Yes,
Vicky,
please.
I just wanted to let you all know, as from the board level, we do have someone, a student from the town of Fairfield that's conducting and completing his senior experience as part of his graduating requirements. William, just want to say hello.
Hey, my name is William Bostrom. I go to Fairfield Ludlow High School. As Matt mentioned, I'm a senior. Just doing an internship here, trying to work out what I want to do like after college, see if I like the major I'm going into.
So I just want to let you all know he was here.
Welcome. That's great.
Welcome.
Okay, so I don't believe there's any other public participation.
Nope.
You don't see anyone else there that wants?
I do not. We didn't receive any requests for it, so we don't
Okay.
have anything.
All right, great. So then let's move to the addition to the agenda. We don't need to vote on that, do we, John? Matt?
Nope.
Okay, so let's have the go to the legislative update now with John.
Well, let's do the minutes first, Vicky, and then we'll do the
Oh,
ledger
you want to do
update.
the minute? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so you want to do both of these minutes at the same time?
I'm fine with that as long as the body is.
Okay, then can I have a motion to approve the April 24th, 2025 minutes and the May 7th, 2025 minutes, please?
So move for a second, Rooney, second for a second, Bindle Glass.
Thank you very much. Any discussion for either of those? Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone against? Any abstentions? Okay, I think we're good to go for both of those. Okay, so now let's move to the legislative update with John Harkins.
Thank you, Vicky, and hello all, and my apologies. I'm in my car right now. I had meetings this morning. We just found out that we were going to be doing this today, and I just want to let you know that we're in the last week of session, which is crazy. We end June 4th, but if there's ever a time that you have a question or need to meet with us during this time, just schedule the meeting. We'll make time to do it because it's critical that we hear from you given these final days, because a lot still has yet to be done. There's still not is a budget deal. However, we're hearing they might be close to one, but as of yesterday, it was very fluid, and the Speaker of the House announced that he was willing to do a 1-year budget instead of a 2-year budget. And then the governor did a press conference later yesterday afternoon saying he was opposed to that. It may veto it, but still wanted to discuss and thought they can get a deal done, and emphasized that they were not looking at making cuts, that the arguing was or disagreements were actually over the increases, not what they were going to cut. And so I related to that a little bit about our Board of Ed budgets. If you come in a little lower, everyone says you cut the board, but you still gave them an increase. But anyway, so that's going on. So I saw this morning that might be some positive conversations that they may get a deal done. Just to give you an idea how fluid things are, there are still some major bills out there yet to be done. What's happening is you're seeing these large aircraft carrier bills start to emerge, where different committees are putting a lot of bills into one big bill to try to get them passed. So it's an interesting strategy. I know some of the members are not happy because their bills may not be getting called. And even though we have a little less than a week, it's really not a lot of time. And the budget's going to kind of suck the air out of the room if they in fact have a deal, because time is necessary to debate. And as the clock ticks down to Wednesday, the minority party, the Republicans, actually becomes more powerful because they can kill more bills by talking bills longer and debating longer. So we kind of get into that ticky-tacky phase. So if there's anything important that's coming up, I know the housing bill was very important to many of you. We need to hear from you, and we'll try to get you the information as soon as possible, or if you need an emergency meeting, please let us know and we'll coordinate with Matt. Mike Smith, fortunately, is also here today. He was able to carve out some time. Mike, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, thank you. And as John said, it's the last chaotic rush. And if you imagine a mad sprint to the finish, this is more ridiculous, as some of you have experienced. And as John mentioned, there was serious negotiations. And it looked like yesterday morning with the way Speaker Ritter talked about a 1-year budget, it kind of led you to believe the negotiations had broken down and they're looking for alternatives. The governor then said he'd veto it. And then late last night at about 10:15, when the House was still going, the House Dems went to a caucus and came out, and it sounds like they might be close to a 2-year budget deal. Waiting to hear details of that. In order to craft that, the sticky wicket they've been struggling with is they did a settlement with 1199 to avert a strike in nursing homes, but that means they had to find another $200 million in the budget. So it was about $200 million. They're trying to figure out how to move around in order to make a 2-year budget happen. What we heard last night is it looks like they might be cutting from the CSEU system in Yukon to try and make up that difference since they have such high reserves, but we'll know more about that this morning when they start before every day before the House session. The Speaker of the House and Majority Leader run a press conference and take questions. So the vast majority of them in this final stretch are about the budget itself. As I mentioned, there was a massive housing bill that passed. The 10,000 foot view is it's not as bad for municipalities and business as the first version. They stripped out a lot of the draconian punishments and tried to offer some incentives. There's certainly in any bill it's 92 pages plus another 13-page amendment afterwards. There's going to be a lot of stuff in it. It's not as bad as it was, and it does have information about fair share portions for municipalities, but there's no teeth or punishments if you don't reach those thresholds. There's also some other incentives for communities that you're struggling with 8-30G. If you work with a public housing authority, you get a few extra points for your housing unit equivalent math. And that passed in the House Tuesday. It could run in the Senate as early as tomorrow, but maybe next week. And then there's a lot of talk about the education. They're still talking about fully funding the ECS formula. They're trying to come to some deal to mitigate the increase in special ed costs for the outplacement. They're still negotiating about that, but trying to do it in a more sustainable way so everyone can budget in a way that doesn't result in 6-7 figure increases that get dropped on mid-year. So there's a lot of moving parts, but the only thing that is for certain is that next Thursday, the session will be done. And if you listen to Speaker Ritter yesterday, they'll also have a budget. So a lot of moving parts. Happy to answer questions.
And one other note is that, everything's kind of revolved around the budget right now because it's critical to everyone. But the reality is there's a lot of angst among members regarding what's going on in Washington on the federal level and what kind of funding we're going to receive or not receive. So they are looking and discussing about a special session. So even if they get a budget and then next Wednesday, this is going to kind of be an ongoing process. And things happen almost daily, it seems, but they're looking to probably come in maybe like September, October. That's the talk right now, to do a special session on any shortfalls or things that they have to maybe backfill. And so that's going to be interesting. And it's going to be a challenge for the legislature, but we don't know yet, but that's what's being discussed. Are there any questions?
Vicky, if I could just for a second on the reference by both John and Mike, the housing bill that passed the House on Tuesday night, something we've been tracking the whole time. And the COGS have already been kind of coordinating on what's in that bill. As Mike said, a number of the provisions that were more punitive have been removed from that bill. There are still a lot of different provisions in that bill that are going to be difficult to comply with at the local level. There also is an opportunity in the amended language as part of that 13-page amendment that Mike referenced to kind of go back and contest the fair share allocation that's being proposed. So we're looking collectively amongst all the regions to kind of try and help each of our member municipalities, obviously, but also look at it from a statewide perspective of how the COGS could help municipalities kind of move forward and comply with these without, creating unnecessary and undue burden on the municipalities from the housing perspective. So there's still a lot to be digested from that bill and understand exactly what's in there. My guess is there's going to need to be a number of fixes probably in the next session, because a bill that large with that many provisions is going to have some that are in contrast and opposition to each other. So there probably will be an opportunity to have some more discussions both in the off session as well as next session on some small fixes and edits and revisions to that bill that make it more palatable and more able to be complied with as it's intended. But it's something that we've been tracking and will continue to be working on from a regional perspective with all the other COGs. Just want to put that out there to all of you that, we are here as a significant resource for you on that bill. There is some funding for the COGs from a housing perspective in that bill that will help us hire another staff member specifically for housing to assist you all with what's in that housing bill.
Yeah, Matt, I think that would be very helpful. And it was a contentious bill. I know Majority Leader Jason Rojas has been working on this for years. He was trying to be more inclusive on it to obviously get it passed because it was so contentious. And, he gave Republicans something. He included the governor's bill. So, they were looking to do something on a bipartisan level only because, it's a really big issue. Certainly anything the COGs do, the COGs are looked at in a favorable light in the legislature, really as a tool to do more and to assist. So I think that would be a perfect role as far as helping the towns, even conveying the message of concerns that, because it would be listened, because as more is discussed about the COG's role in state government to local government, I think that would be vital and well accepted.
So if I could, Matt, for a second, I did post a statement on our website about this bill. What happened very quickly, and it went from a paragraph of a bill to 92 pages and then several amendments. Very difficult for us to follow all of that in our municipalities. So it would be helpful, I think, Matt, I'm very happy to hear what you just said. And I'm just wondering if, John, if you could, maybe provide us with just a quick summary of some of the things we should be looking at that, because things are happening so fast. And we're so busy with obviously other things happening in our communities. It's hard to keep our finger on everything. And this housing bill was huge. I know, Mike, you said the Senate's going to vote on it, you think next week?
Sometime between tomorrow and next week, yeah.
Are there
Tomorrow would
any,
be the earliest.
are there any indications that the Senate may vote it down?
It would be very unlikely it gets voted down. And kind of the larger landscape is a lot of the people that have been involved worked really hard to get some of the more punitive measures removed, and likely it'll pass the Senate. It was 12 hours of debate in the House, probably similar in the Senate, airing grievances. And I think kind of what Matt talked about is that there will be the legislature, at least the majority leader thinks it is a positive effort. He's obviously coming from the perspective of a legislator, not a chief elected official like you all. So as you bump into challenges, I think we can start collecting that list, and then we can make the case next session whenever there's a big bill like this, there are always modifications. And so as you're having those challenges and pain points, kind of collecting them to make that argument next year, they need to continue to mitigate some of the challenges that you face with this massive bill that will probably pass and be signed into law next week and be signed into law subsequently by the governor.
There's a lot of people in the general public who don't have a clue and don't understand and hear sound bites that scare them, and that comes right back to us. You know, when it's not us that's, you know, writing this legislation, and it's just, it's frustrating when something like this happens so quickly, and there's so little information that comes out to help us to communicate with our constituency. So any help would be great. Would greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Does anyone else have?
Yeah, can I ask a question?
Sure, Bill, go ahead.
I actually can someone send around how many units the Fair Share Housing Guru thinks that we're gonna have to build in each of our municipalities?
So I actually shared an article with Matt. Matt, did you get the article from the Connecticut Mirror?
I did, yeah, Bill. I have a spreadsheet too. I'll get out to you. And this is part of the issue is this bill was huge and has been changed so many times that the number of units is kind of it's a little bit in flux in terms of our understanding of what's actually in there. And there, as I said, there also is a process in the amendment B of the legislation that allows for any municipality to contest what their fair share is prior to January 1 of next year. So that's something that we're looking at, Bill, from a regional perspective and a statewide perspective, once the COGS to kind of put together some methodology that we believe is a little bit more reflective of the actual need and the reality in terms of number of units that could be built anywhere. So that's something that we're working on, but I can send that out to you just so you have it.
And do you have a final version of what was passed so we know what the final, what?
There is not a full consolidated LCO file yet, although Mike might be.
Yeah, the file just dropped this morning, so
Yeah,
I can put the link to the OLR in chat.
And
so the other two, Bill, because I did look at the housing requirements. Vicky, you and I and Milford are like 1,300 or so. Bill, you're a little less, I think, probably because of your moratorium. Greenwich is like 900, but those numbers are in the bill.
Okay. And okay. I mean, how can you build that many units?
So I would say that it's a bit of it's a semantic argument, but the bill itself doesn't require you to build any units. The bill is for allowing for planning and zoning that would allow for that many units to be built. So it doesn't there, and as Mike said, some of the punitive pieces that were in there previously that were going to be kind of more sticks and carrots have been removed in terms of if you're not complying. They also did strip out, there was a piece of a provision in the original language that gave certain entities legal standing to sue if they didn't believe the studies and the planning was being done correctly. That has been pulled out of the bill as well. So while there is a number tied to it, the number doesn't necessarily reflect a requirement to build. It's more for a long-term planning vision, which is partly where the COGS have already been in discussion with this collectively about how can we make a more reasonable argument about the number of units that really is necessary in the shorter term. And we shouldn't be planning for thousands and thousands of units over what would likely be a 20, 30, 40-year period, because that kind of doesn't make sense from a housing planning perspective. So we have a couple ideas where we've convened kind of a housing working group at the COG level amongst every region to start working on some of these issues and putting together kind of a collective understanding of the legislation, but also our thoughts as professional planners from a housing perspective in terms of what really is realistic and possible within the state of Connecticut. So that's something that we'll be working on over the next number of months, and I will keep you all updated on that. But I think we have as John said, I think we have a good place to kind of initiate those discussions with the legislature, with the majority leader as we move forward here in the off session.
And I've watched the governor a few times talk about wanting to rebuild cities so that people would want to live in cities. Is there anything in this bill that promotes rebuilding cities so that people would want to live in our cities in Connecticut?
But plus, that minimum parking requirement was a bone of contention with the city of Bridgeport. So that was another controversial aspect of this bill. So, Mike, do you have anything to add to that?
I know they've been talking a lot about trying to incentivize cities. I don't recall off the top of my head without reviewing it again. But the summary, I think, will give a good idea, and we can dig into that and see. But it's certainly one of the talking points of the governor and House and Senate leadership to try and incentivize folks to build back our cities.
Vicky, if I may. I did hear a little bit about the budget bill because I was concerned about a one-year budget. That creates chaos, even more chaos for us. I had heard that the deal being contemplated or maybe struck would be to prepay the teacher's pension, and so give that relief in the second year of the biennium. And if that works for us, taking the money from the surplus, prepaying the pension obligation, the not the debt service, the main part of the debt that's owed. I can't think of the word. It's like on your mortgage, you're not paying the interest, you're paying the
Principal.
Principal. Thank you. Couldn't think of the word. Thank you. Which I think is a great idea. That happened in 2018. It saved us a lot of money. So if you guys are, I know your ears are to the ground, maybe you can flesh that out for us, but that would be great if we don't have to worry about it, really worry about second year of the budget.
If we hear anything, we will let you know. As soon as we get some numbers, we're going to forward them to you.
Great. Thank you.
You bet. Thanks, Mayor.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay, I think we're good. Thanks, John. Thanks, Mike.
You bet. Thank you, Vicky.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you all.
Vicky, can I say something quickly about the Aquarian acquisition?
Yep.
Or it's not on the agenda, but while Mike's still on.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, so the it looks like the Pura hearings are going to be May 25th, and they're going to be, I think as starting now, they'll accept email.
Is that June 25th?
June 25th, yes.
June 25th.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So I'm going to testify, and hopefully, and we can testify remotely. I think it's probably all remote. But I'm going to ask people in Fairfield to send emails prior to that. So I'm not sure if people were aware that the hearing is June 25th.
Yeah, so that is the just for everyone's awareness, that's the public hearing that's required as part of the PURA process. It allows anyone from the public to provide their comments on it. It doesn't technically go into the full docket as record, but it is part of the required process for a PURA hearing is to have and hold this public meeting. It's somewhat similar to the public meetings that were held back last August, if you all remember, by RWA as part of their process. It's kind of that similar type of public hearing. We are currently drafting some template language that we're going to send out to all of you for that, both for you specifically as elected officials, and potentially something that you could put out that would allow for citizens to also submit comments as part of that public hearing process. So we're looking to have that for you all probably by mid to end of next week with the template narrative language that you can use and your residents can use as well.
Thanks. Okay. Any more comments about that? Okay, so let's move to our action items. Can I have a motion to bring item A, which is fiscal year 26 health insurance coverage, to the floor?
No moved.
Thanks, David. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second for Selectman Rooney.
Thank you. Okay, Matt, this is attachment C to the agenda.
Yeah, so there's a memo here on page 13, just outlining kind of our process as we do every year for our health benefits and supplemental benefits. Specifically the health ones, we always go out to the market through our health benefit consultant. What came back, as we talked about in previous years, we are part of the small group policy, less than 50 people. So there's not a whole lot of options in the state of Connecticut. Really the only two that came back were our existing one through Anthem Blue Cross and an Oxford Health one, which was more expensive. So the recommendation from myself to the body is to continue on our current plan, which is the Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield. It has a 10% increase in the premiums over last year, which is relatively low in comparison to what we saw from other plans. I know it's not as low as we'd like it to be, but unfortunately, health insurance is kind of what it is at the moment and killing everyone. But this is by far the best coverage and the best cost coverage that we can get for our agency. So the recommendation there is to continue on the current provider and current plan.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Any discussion, questions?
The only thing I'd like to say, Madam Chair, is that, in town, we saw a 10.9% increase from the state insurance, so you did better than us, and we're a large group.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that we sit here as town and city leaders and celebrate a 10% increase. It's, but this is where it is, so.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Your statement is correct. It's actually a good deal in comparison to what's out there. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sure, thank you. That's very true. Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against? I think that's unanimous. Can I have a motion to bring action item B, local transportation capital improvement program, 2025 project solicitation, attachment D to our agenda to the floor?
So moved.
First, Selectman Rooney made a motion.
And can I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, David. Okay, Matt.
Okay, so as I discussed in a couple previous meetings, we did do a solicitation for the LOTSIP program to get this printed big, huh? To get projects for everyone. That's the agenda. That's the.
No, that's not it.
So I appreciate your assistance in getting your staff to submit those projects. We did receive a total of about $54 million worth of projects from the region. We have about 16 million to program. Ideally, we like to over-program a little bit to ensure that we have continual flow of projects through the program and we're drawing down funds out of our allocation. So what we have before you is on page 17 is the priority project list that has projects in Bridgeport, Fairfield, and Trumbull. Technically, these are improvements on Park Avenue and Jefferson Street around the SHU campus. This project is somewhat contingent upon bond funding from the legislature that would provide the design funds for this project. We've been in coordination with Sacred Heart, Town of Fairfield, City of Bridgeport, and to a certain extent Trumbull, because one of the project locations is at the health center on Park Avenue in Trumbull. So this would provide the construction money for pedestrian safety improvements at 4 intersections, 3 on Park Avenue, 1 on Jefferson Street, to increase safety for pedestrians crossing Park Avenue back and forth between Sacred Heart and many of the locations where students are traveling to. And there's 3 projects in Bridgeport, 2 small projects that are almost fully designed and ready to go to construction, small intersection projects at Barnum and Central and Housatonic and Gold Street, a larger complete streets project on East Main Street in Bridgeport. This was actually a project that had received funding from the federal government, EPA. Unfortunately, that funding was stripped from the city of Bridgeport. So they're looking to reprogram or program lots of money to kind of take the place of the federal funding that was lost as part of some of the administrative cuts that have happened. There's a project in Easton to repave Reading Road. The current cost estimate, it might increase due to labor costs, but it's probably about $700,000 to $800,000 for repaving. Two projects in Fairfield, Southport, Pequannock Avenue, Route 1 neighborhood improvements, and Northeast schools. Stratford is Paradise Green pedestrian improvements. That's a project that is basically continuing off a project that's currently in design and moving to final design for Main Street, doing a road diet and complete streets improvements on the road infrastructure. This would complement that project to increase and create a better pedestrian environment in that Paradise Green area of Stratford. And then two projects in Trumbull, one on Old Town Road and Corey Road, and a second project on Daniels Farms Road. And then you can see on page 17, there are a number of additional projects that we will keep kind of in the queue. And as well as we always have with all of you, if there's any priority projects or major projects of concern that kind of come up in between this solicitation and previous solicitations, I'm more than happy to always have a conversation with you and see what we might be able to do in terms of moving those projects in if the need arises.
Okay, any discussion? All right, hearing none, can I have all those that are in favor, please? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? That passes unanimously. Okay. Let's go to action item C, S&P Global Trans-Search Freight Commodity Data for Transportation Planning, attachment E to the agenda. Can I have a motion to bring that item to the floor?
So moved.
Thank you, Laura. Can I have a second? Thanks, David. Okay, Matt.
Yeah, so this is a collaborative purchase that's happening between 6 of the MPOs in the state. Trans-Search S&P Global has a proprietary freight data that they collect on an annual basis. And this really is to help us comply with our, as we talked about in the previous meeting, the requirements of from the federal perspective on our freight planning as part of our transportation planning work through Federal Highways and USDOT. So what this would do is we would purchase freight data for the year 2024, and it would be a cost share between ourselves and, as I said, 6 other MPOs in the region or in the state. And we'd be able to share this data. We would use it for our transportation planning services to do some of the freight planning that has been identified by Federal Highways as a not a finding, but a deficiency across the state in terms of freight planning. It also includes a very user-friendly application that allows us to do a lot of mapping and analytics with the freight data. So this is really just to get board approval for a direct charge through our transportation planning funding that we received from Federal Highways to be part of the collaborative purchase of this for statewide freight data.
Thanks, Matt. Anybody have any questions, discussion?
Vicky, I do have a question, if I may.
Sure.
Matt, what when you mean freight, what do you mean? Rail?
So the freight data will include it includes all data on trucking freight, and we're actually buying a supplemental proprietary rail freight data as well. So this would allow us to give us much better data in terms of the commodities, their scale, and the frequency at which they move through our region on any mode of transportation. So be it tractor trailer, be it barges, and be it freight moving on rail. So it's really looking at the totality of freight that's moving through our region and through the state of Connecticut, where it's coming from and as well as where it's going, either within the region, within the state, or as a pass through moving from New York to Boston or further afield.
It's county based.
And it's based on county.
And this is information that DOT does not have?
So DOT purchased this data in 2019 as part of their statewide freight planning effort. They have not purchased an update of it since. And we have been in discussions, as I said, with other municipalities, other MPOs, about trying to acquire more updated data. We know that things obviously have changed since 2019, subsequent to the COVID-19 pandemic, and freight has kind of shifted a little bit. So from our perspective, we thought it would be helpful to look at acquiring data so we could, as part of our metropolitan transportation plan that we'll be updating for 2027, that includes a freight profile as well as a congestion management plan. Obviously, as you all know, congestion management in our region is significantly affected by the movement of freight. So we believe that this data will give us a much better understanding of what's kind of coming through the region, what's ending up in our region, and what's moving and what's emanating from our region outward from other places. But Connecticut DOT does not have this data. We did approach them to see if there was interest in a cost share with Connecticut DOT, and they did not seem to be open to that at this time. So we are trying to proactively move together as a collection of MPOs to get this data and help increase our ability to plan for freight within our region and within our state.
So I'm supportive of this, but also for multiple reasons, and I'll just take a few minutes, if you don't mind, Vicky, to explain why. We, as members of CCM, have been working on the municipal solid waste problem that we have, and one of the cost issues is transportation. And we approached DOT and asked them to bring back the COVID transportation weights, which they denied us on the tractor trailers, which they denied us because they said it would be federal highways had given relief during COVID, and that relief was not still continued. We don't have, as you know, we're working on the waste characterization study that was awarded by the General Assembly 2 years ago to DEEP. We still don't have that, but I'm thinking if we put some of these things together, we might be able to work with DOT, whether it's rail or freight or barge, to give some relief for our municipal solid waste transportation costs, at least. So if this goes through and everybody agrees to it in all the MPOs, Matt, I would strongly urge you to work with CCM and the industry to figure out if we can persuade DOT to be a little more open-minded about the weights of certain trucks that carry municipal solid waste.
Yeah, thank you, Lauren. I will say that the part of the characterization that comes with this data does include, and we lost our video, does include tonnage of municipal solid waste. So that is a characteristic that is included as part of this data. Sorry, we lost our camera for a second. I apologize. So that is something that we can certainly, Laura, use going forward with this data to help inform some of those discussions and hopefully provide some of that understanding and potentially, like you said, some allowances for additional weights on bridges for specific vehicles. I know we have an issue in terms of bridge ratings if allowing certain vehicles over 125,000 pounds collectively, but I do think there's an opportunity potentially for specific industry uses that this data could help us create a better argument for. So certainly happy to coordinate with CCM on that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Anyone else have any questions, discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone against? Any abstentions? Okay, that passes unanimously as well. Let's move to item D, fiscal year 2025 EPA Brownfields Revolving Loan Fund Supplemental Grant. This is attachment F to the agenda. Can I have a motion to bring that to the floor, please?
So moved.
Thank you,
First,
David.
Rooney.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Laura. Okay, Matt.
Sure. So this is a MetroCog applied for and very thankfully was awarded supplemental brownfields revolving loan funds. Pat Carlton led that effort along with Hannah Reichley in our office. So this is a supplemental award based on our existing revolving loan fund that we have with EPA. The award is for $1 million of additional funding for revolving loan fund to use to help clean up and remediate environmentally contaminated land and buildings within our region. So a really good award. Supplemental funding is competitive. So EPA saw us as a good steward of their funding thus far, and thankfully awarded us with an additional $1 million. We don't have the grant agreement yet. The announcements were made, what, 3 weeks ago, Pat?
Last Friday.
A week ago.
2 Fridays ago.
2 Fridays ago. So it's relatively new. We are still working with EPA on moving through all the contractual instruments. There is a workshop that we have to attend as a grantee in Boston later in June. But it's a really a good positive step forward that EPA sees us as a continual good partner for their remediation efforts.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that's great news.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question. Patrick, in regards, we did a grant for the brownfields for Monroe for a project that we're doing. Are they still in the process of issuing grants to the municipality, or
Did you apply through EPA or was it through
DCD or EPA?
I think it was EPA. I'm not sure.
If
I
it's-
have to talk to the whole.
If it's EPA, they made all their announcements last week, so it was or 2 weeks ago. So they have 3 separate programs. They have the cleanup program, the assessment program, and the revolving loan fund program. They made all the announcements for awardees 2 weeks ago. So if you didn't hear, you likely didn't get it. But if it was through DECD, they're still in their selection
they're
process.
still-
They haven't announced yet.
Okay.
So yeah, so
All
it could be possible if it's for state funding,
Yeah.
that it's still out there and just being reviewed.
Thank you. Good job.
If you check with Bill, let us know, because I can have reach out to DCD if it's state funded. See where that's at.
Thank you.
Yep.
Nothing else.
Any more questions, discussion? Okay, we've got a motion on the floor for action item D. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against? Extension? That passes unanimously as well. Okay, let's move to discussion items. Item A is financials, which is draft of the annual budget, and that is attachment G to the agenda.
Yeah, so this is just for informational purposes, as a discussion item. We will bring this budget to the board for approval next month. But we thought it'd be helpful just to have a quick discussion. I'll turn it over to Colleen Keller, Finance Director, for a quick summary.
Yep, not much different from last year. We anticipate increased revenue of $250,000. And that is a lot of grants that we didn't start last year, like AOPP will actually be starting this fiscal year. We don't have any new grants. Nothing, right?
Nothing, well,
SS4A will be receiving the money this year. It was we had it as a line item last year, but we never got any funding for it. On the expense side, we increased the personnel salaries by $135,000, and that's anticipating hopefully hiring a couple new people next year. That will increase the benefits as well. We also have the $70,000 increase for legal services for Pura. And we currently have that putting us at a deficit of $70,000, anticipating using that with our fund balance. So I don't know if anybody has questions. We're not moving this today.
yeah, it's really just for discussion purposes now, but yeah, the thought process there was, as we discussed amongst all of us, that we would be using MetroCog's fund balance to provide the costs initially for the legal and consulting services for Pura. Based on our budget, the only way to dip into the fund balance is to have a deficit at the end of the fiscal year. So we're showing a deficit. Ideally, we will continue to track that and try to mitigate that deficit as much as possible. I will also say, it was supposed to be an update in the other business for the Pura proceedings. We did submit intention, and we filed them as part of the application, the stakeholder compensation, which would provide up to $100,000 of reimbursement for MetroCog as part of our work through the Pura proceedings. That was received by Pura. They did send us a response. We provided a response to their comments and questions. So that is now being reviewed again by both Aquarian, RWA, and Pura. And we should have a decision on that within the next 15 to 20 days, I believe. So we will know whether or not the compensation reimbursement we will be getting that or not, and we can modify the budget as to reflect that. I will also say something that's not part of this budget, as I mentioned previously during our legislative update. The Housing Bill 5002 did include an additional $400,000 for each council governments to hire specific staff related to housing planning, as well as municipal stormwater, MS4 flooding, and municipal solid waste. So that's not contemplated in this budget, but that funding would be specifically for additional positions and to cover the indirect costs of those employees. So we will likely, depending on what happens in the next week, add that revenue and expense this budget so that the budget will look a little bit different than it does now. But the revenue expenses should be similar to where we're at, just based on increased staff salary and benefits, but also increased revenue to cover those expenses.
Okay, anybody have any questions? Okay, let's. Somebody say something? No?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Let's move on to item B, office lease renewal.
Yes, I gave a quick update at a previous meeting. Our current lease with the office we are in expires in March of 2026. We did approach our broker to help start negotiating that lease on our behalf. They did so. As part of that discussion, as I mentioned at the last meeting, the building approached us saying that our neighbor, the Southwestern Connecticut Agency on Aging, actually recently downsized and took a portion of the office space that they used that was adjacent to us, and they're no longer using it. And the building offered us if we wanted to take in part or whole that space that they were affording us the ability to do so. So we are still looking at that. We had an architect come in, we had the building manager come in, we had some general contractors come in. So they are putting together a proposal now of what that would look like to expand the office, modify the existing number of offices, give us a little bit more space and a little bit more capacity to expand. As I said, we do have potential funding for 2 more positions, as well as funding in our budget for a 3rd position. So we really need a little bit extra space in this office to accommodate those folks if we are able to get that funding and hire people. So I think actually timing wise, this worked out really well. They're gonna come back to us with what those numbers look like. Based on the discussions we've had thus far, the majority of the improvements that would be made would be covered by the landlord and the building owner as part of kind of the process that they do to fit out a building or fit out an office. There might be a couple overages based on material selections and those sorts of things that we would be needing to cover, but that's all being worked out now. I just wanted to give you all a quick update that we are still in discussions. We don't have any numbers yet, but once we do, we will bring those to you all. But we thought it was a good idea to explore it, because as soon as we take or don't take the piece next to us, they are going to put that piece up for lease. So it's really a one-time shot to look at potentially expanding a little bit. And we're not talking a huge amount, probably 600 or 700 square feet extra, but it will give us a larger footprint to allow for additional capacity.
Vicky, if I may I ask a question? Sure. Matt, when you bring back the proposal to us, would you also let us know, besides the square footage, what type of office space, if it's office space, if it's bullpen space, if you're going to have an ancillary conference room? Just give us the whole picture, will you, please?
Yes, very much so. Like I said, we met with some folks. We're waiting for, we have a kind of a concept plan right now, but I didn't want to provide anything until that had been looked at by both the general contractor and the HVAC person that came in as well. But when they get back to us with all the details, we will have a finalized kind of conceptual plan. So I'll make sure that is provided to all of you. But at a high level, Laura, it would include an additional conference room that we don't currently have. We only have the one conference room that we're all in right now. There's no additional meeting space outside of this large room. So it would include a smaller conference room that would be able to be used by staff for meetings. It also does create 2 additional offices and open up the existing open area for at least 2, if not 4 additional office cubicles to allow for capacity. But we will provide all that to you, Laura, once we have that more finalized.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Anybody have any other questions about the lease renewal? Okay, so let's go to our final discussion item, regional POCD.
So I'll turn this over to Megan Sloan, Planning Director, just for a quick update.
Yep, we had our first series of focus groups. They went really well. Thank you for all the municipal staff who attended. Lots of good discussions. Next steps, at some point, we want to have a planning advisory committee, which is going to be a few people from each focus groups and then whatever municipal leadership is interested in attending. Over the next few months, we're going to really be ramping up our outreach effort. So we're going to be distributing press release, have a survey, and then attending local events, but we'll keep everybody updated as needed. And
Yeah.
the more municipal word, spreading the word, typically the better participation we get.
Yeah, we've been working with your staff to identify events that are happening in towns that we can attend and be part of. So, but if there's anything that you all have that you would like us to be part of, to be there for outreach and engagement efforts, please don't hesitate to let us know. And we'll make sure we keep you updated with what your staff is providing us in terms of those types of events to be out there. We try to, rather than having like a public meeting at a specific place, we try to go out where you're already attracting folks and just be part of that event. We find that's a much better way to talk to folks and get people's inputs where they're already planning to attend something rather than having to go out of their way to attend a second or third meeting.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Okay, so hearing none.
And Vicky, if I could, there was supposed to be the AWA acquisition was supposed to be on here. I must have deleted it accidentally. I apologize. I was just going to give a quick update that we did file to intervene. There are a number of our municipalities that filed, as well as Save the Sound, the Attorney General's office, and another water company in the state of Connecticut also filed to intervene. So there's a number of interveners on the docket now. I think our intervener was accepted.
Yeah, the motion to intervene was granted.
Yeah,
and
so
then
we
the
are
motion-
formally accepted as an intervener.
Yep, and then the motion for stakeholder compensation that Matt alluded to before is in review by Pura. There were some comments from Aquarian and RWA on that. But that is in review. And I think they're supposed to have a decision for us on that by 30 days from when we filed, which would put us at about June 15th, I believe.
Yes.
Okay.
If I could just say one thing. Thank you, Madam Chair. Pat or Matt, can you give me just a small paragraph and update on that status? Because obviously I'm informing council and things of that nature, so.
Happy to. We'll send it to everybody.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and Bill, the question in the chat, do we have a contract with Chuck yet? We do not. We're working on that right now. We do have authorization from you all based on the meeting that we had on May 7th. So that's in the works and should be executed probably within the next, I'd say less than a week would be my guess. The same thing with Paul. Paul was doing his internal conflicts checks, but he's been supporting us throughout the filing with the intention that we will be have the engagement letter with him within a very short period of time as well. And the only other piece that we will send out to you, as I said, we are working on some template language for the public meeting in June 25th that we will get to you all to put out both for yourselves as well as your residents.
Well, yeah, can I add one other thing?
Yeah, and Pat.
The OCC did put out a list of interrogatories, the first ones. They're very extensive. There's about 83 questions that they're asking of Aquarian and RWA. So they're online on the docket, but we can send them around.
Yeah, we'll send that around too. Yeah, so that's the Office of Consumer Counsel. That is kind of part of Pura, but as a standalone entity, advocating on behalf of ratepayers. And they did submit their first round of interrogatories, as Pat said. I think it was 83 or 84 separate interrogatories. Most of them, I would say, are in line with most of the questions that we have in terms of rates and pilots and those sorts of things. But the OCC was the first one to submit interrogatories, and as Pat said, they were very extensive. But we will provide that PDF to you just so you can take a look at it. But there's a lot in there that they're already questioning as part of this potential change of control.
Can I ask a question, please?
Sure.
So Matt, what's the interplay between the public hearing process and the intervener process? In other words,
so there's really
hearing to hear the interveners. Do we testify?
So the intervener process has an entire kind of set of guidelines and things that happen on a certain time frame that are completely separate from the public hearing process. The public hearing is really just a one-time public hearing for anyone not participating in the case as an intervener or participant to provide their thoughts and comments on the proposed filing. So they're really completely divorced from each other in terms of what they are. They're obviously all relating to the same PURA docket, but the public meeting portion is really just for anyone within the affected service areas to provide their comments and concerns or support, whatever it happens to be, for the filing as it's filed. The intervener process is laid out in statute in terms of the interrogatories that are filed, the actual hearings, and those are not public hearings. Those are kind of like pseudo court hearings that will happen. And then there's a whole set of kind of conditional discussions, draft condition responses and interrogatories. Those are all part of the statutory requirements for PURA, as well as this public meeting, which is a statutory requirement, but it really is completely separate from the intervener piece.
And counsel will be arguing for us, is that you represented like you're represented as a client in a judicial process?
Not for the, yeah, for the full judicial process, yes. For the public hearing, it's really just anyone. Now, that's where you all could put you could submit public hearing testimony to have, your thoughts on there specifically, but it doesn't tie you to the intervention that we are party to.
Thank you.
Vicky, I just realized, thank you to Megan and Colleen. We need no, Dave's the secretary.
I know. Oh,
Oh, it's fine. We can change it. That's fine. No, we're good. Forget it.
okay.
Crisis averted. We're good. Sorry.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions, comments before we motion to adjourn? Our next meeting dates are June 26th and July 31st.
And again, as typical, we will have the June meeting. We need that to approve the budget and to approve our regional services grant work plan. Typically, if we don't have any item, which I don't anticipate, the July 31st meeting likely will be canceled. Echoing Laura's comments from the MPO meeting. But if we need something in the interim, we will certainly make sure we can do that.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. With all that being said, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, David. A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. We are adjourned.
Thanks, Vicky. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Colleen.
Sniper.
Megan. Patrick.